Nice to have our friend and colleague Tom Verducci with us in studio, and I'm sure, Tom, you were watching with as much interest as we were in San Diego last week, thinking, my gosh, when is this going to end? What a band of activity we saw. It was a lot of fun.
That was pretty cool. You know, besides all the free agents, I thought the trades, because a lot of those were made pure baseball evaluation reasons. Not like, hey, we can't afford this guy. Here's a salary we have to move. It's like, let's match up, you know? My weakness, your weakness, maybe we can help each other. Love to see those kinds of deals.
It was fun. I mean, was there one team? I mean, we know which teams were the most active. We can just read through the transactions for that. But was there one or two teams that surprised you the most?
Not a surprise. Maybe the Dodgers getting everything done as quickly as they did. I mean, that was a flurry of activity. I love what they did. They'll score fewer runs, but they're a better team, I think. They'll catch the ball better, like the makeup in the clubhouse. Rollins, Kendrick, besides the great double play combination, great professional players. I just love the vibe they're going to bring that team.
I thought it was interesting. We just had Donnie on. He was talking about they tried to make a deal for Kendrick. They had a deal a couple of years ago, but they were on that historic run. They didn't want to change things up.
Yeah.
So they've had their eye on him for a while.
I love Kendrick. I think he's underrated. You saw what he did this year. A lot of responsibility driving in runs this year in that Angels lineup in the 5-6 hole there, and he did a great job. They get him anywhere.
They kind of took off the Angels when they made that move, and they made the move out of necessity when Hamilton got hurt.
Yeah. You know what I see, guys? All this activity to me tells me build a team now to win 85 games, and you're good. You know, because you can build the team to win 85 fairly easily, and then if somebody breaks and has a great year, or you sit there in July, you add a piece, now you can win 88. The Giants won 88 last year and won the World Series. To me, that's where the game has changed. We're sitting here, I think 27, 28 teams legitimately say we can win 85 games. And that puts you right in the mix for the postseason.
Oh,
so the days of the super team, the super band, if you will, borrowing a 70s term, you don't have to win 100 or more games.
There you go. It doesn't happen anymore. That's the only time, by the way, since we went to the 162-game schedule, we've gone 3 straight years without a team winning 100 games. And I don't see anybody winning 100. There's just too much talent equally distributed.
What do you think about what happened in Chicago? The whole city.
Wow.
Both teams.
Back, huh?
Wow.
I mean, listen, baseball, you know, the revenues, we got that report last week, $9 billion. Well, they've done it really without the Cubs. And I'll throw the Mets in there, too. 2 great historic franchises in the National League, not really being that relevant last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Now the Cubs are relevant. And I think the Mets have a chance to be one of those 85-win teams that can jump up a little bit. But, yeah, I love what the White Sox have done. Cubs, to me, I mean, listen, it was all about John Lester. And I still say, guys, the biggest signing for me is Joe Madden. When we get to next year, we evaluate kind of, you know, everything, dust settles, who got what, who's where. Joe Madden will be the biggest free agency.
Yeah, I don't think there's John Lester without Joe Madden. I know that, Theo, the relationship is great.
Huge, yeah.
But Joe Madden, you know he's going to win. And he's going to get those kids to play and perform. And if I'm John Lester, I'm sitting there looking at my future for the next 7 years, and I'm saying, who's going to manage? Will there be stability? Can he get the most out of the young players? Because every team's going to be young. You can look around the league. We continue to get younger. Who can stay current with the younger player that's coming up?
Right.
And that's critical.
You know, I think that the Chicago market, too, and we visited with Pat Hughes about this earlier, Tom, it requires some personality somewhere. Whether it's in the broadcast booth with a Harry Carey character, whether it's in the dugout with Lee Elia cursing out the fans or whomever it might be, they've got that now. In Joe Madden, he's going to be the figurehead for all that wrapped into one guy.
Did you know about the betting line, Matt? I'm sure you don't pay any attention to that, I know.
We actually talked about this earlier, the fact that the White Sox went from 40 to 25 to 1, and the Cubs are down to 12 to 1, which is ridiculous.
12 to 1?
It's ridiculous. You know, they actually went from 50 to 20 when they got Joe Madden, and then from 20 to 12 when they got John Lester. And they're not done yet. I still think they'll wind up with David Ross. I mean, Lester loves throwing to Ross. I think he's the kind of veteran guy that team needs with all the young players there. Good veteran influence. Perfect world, they get some solid left-handed on-base percentage guy in left field to play for them. I got them in the mix. I don't have them as a playoff team.
I don't either.
They're not in the playoffs.
They're not in the playoffs.
You got to pay attention to them, and people will.
That could be a landing spot for, say, a Nori Aoki. I still think that James Shields is kicking the tires on that place and vice versa. And even if neither one of those things happen, What about envisioning the dream scenario, Joe Madden reunited with David Price with the Chicago Cubs?
That's a great point. I'm agreeing with you. And I know when they met with John Lester, they told him, you are not it. There's another piece coming here, whether it's July or whether it's next offseason. You guys know the names that are going to be out there next offseason as free agent pitchers, whether it's Price or Zimmerman or Samardzija or Cueto. It's a great field. Now, some of those guys may sign extensions, but I know they told John Lester, there's somebody who's going to pitch behind you in this rotation who's of your quality or pretty darn close. Could be July, could be next offseason.
Could be Arrieta. I mean, the way Jake came on.
He's legit. No question.
It was incredible. They're not that far off, but I don't think they're ready yet. I still think their young players have a lot to learn. And they still got to sift through a lot of guys and figure it out.
I agree with that. I mean, you know, when you have young players, the volatility, you have to live with that.
Yeah.
It's going to swing both ways. There'll be days you look at the Cubs and you say, this team's not ready. There'll be days you look at them and they say, yeah, they're ready. And they just won't do it consistently enough. But if Chris Bryant, who they say is the best of all these guys coming up, if he hits the ground running in the big leagues, look out, man.
Yeah.
They're going to be good.
You know, before we let you go, everybody talks about these regional market World Series matchups, and a lot of people think that the rest of the country would tune them out, as some did for A's Giants, the Earthquake Series, as some might have for Mets Yankees. Chicago World Series, I mean, does that capture everybody the way we think it would?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, you could have the Cubs against Secaucus. I don't know. Anybody.
Ooh.
And that's huge.
It's a good matchup.
You know, and I talked to John Lester. I wrote a story that's coming out in this week's SI about Lester. It was really the sell for John Lester, is that it's the biggest championship in all of sports. The Cubs getting the World Series and winning it. That's why he's there. A lot of other reasons. Biggest reason is what you just said. And the country would go mad no matter who the Cubs play in a World Series.